Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to talk about something I love very much. As I was introduced, I was a scientist for 3 decades in CCMB Hyderabad, which is a basic science lab. And after that, I was always interested in entrepreneurship. So I started this incubation center in life sciences at CCMB, and I've been doing it for the last 7 years. And with the belief that entrepreneurship is what is very important and very topical for a country like ours. The previous talk by Dr. Sunil Atawar was actually speaks a lot about what I'm intending to say, so I'll skip some of my slides, but the focus is on opportunities for pharmacy people. So, if you wonder why I put a title as Are We Consumers or Creators? In the context of drugs. India has been very, we had it so many times that India is the pharmacy capital of the world and all that. So we are good at making things, but are we good at creating things? Is the kind of a dilemma that we had. It's not that we haven't done it. If you look around the history of various major drug companies in last 20 years, especially when they realize that we are good at pharma industry and making drugs, why can't we create our own? So for us, a drug that gets approved by FDA is a kind of a achievement. And if you look at it, there is only one drug that was developed in India in the last 40 years, got an approval of FDA only this year. Which is a lot to say about our efforts. It's not that we didn't make effort. We made a lot of efforts. All the majors in the country made a lot of efforts to make new chemical entities. But they were not successful. I'll talk about some of these issues that we face. And first, a kind of a thing that we are all obsessed with, comparison of ourselves with the USA and China. If you look at these numbers, and in the previous lecture also, that Sunil mentioned about the health expenditure, I'm talking about R&D expenditure, and the GDP that each country has, and drug approved by FDA in 2024, and the last one, the Nature Index, tells you something about our ability to create new knowledge. We are among the top 10 in the world as far as knowledge creation is concerned. But are we able to translate this knowledge into something that benefits the society is the question. So that's what I'm saying. Can we create things forever? Can we create, or should we be consumers forever? It's a kind of a slap, backhanded slap on us in a way that why are we not doing what we should be doing? Because we are capable, the numbers say that we are good, but if you compare the GDP versus the amount spent, even one is a very big achievement because the money spent in that context is not that high. In fact, the money China puts in drug development is 16 times higher than what India does if you compare with the GDP and the percentage invested. So it's not that we are not there, but it's not that we are not able to do it as quickly as others do. So what are the successes in the West, for example? One of the big reasons, probably some of you may have heard, was in the US, the universities are allowed to patent and get into a tech translation. They can go to a company and sell their wares, which doesn't happen very easily in the country. It happens in some IITs and places like that, but not across. The autonomy is not given to the inventor or the institute that makes these things, right? So that's one important thing that makes it decentralizes tech transfer in a way that is very important. And as time goes on, you need to have, even the basic research needs money. Government can do so much, and it also politically, gets corrected each time. So how if you want to have money to do your research, you have to earn money by inventing things or innovating things, and then, transfer them and get that money. If you look at the kind of, the majors in the US universities, they are huge in their revenues that comes from their sales of their licenses, of their innovations. So, in fact, the other one is, as previously Dr. Sunil was mentioning, things first happen in universities and research centers, and then they go out. I'm not saying that the corporates don't do it, but the point is, a lot of things happen. If I want to identify a new target, or new entity, or new understanding of a disease, it happens in universities and colleges and research centers. So, these are the springs where knowledge comes out. So, it's very important to nurture them. So, how much industry puts in, if you look at how much Indian industry puts in academics versus American industry puts in academics, there's a big difference. So, there is a belief, even though the returns are slow and steady, there is a belief that universities are the places need to be supported for something new, innovative to happen, right? Again, this is a busy chart, but basically what it tells you is R&D as percentage of gross domestic product and scientists. In fact, we are not very good in this particular graph. We are somewhere at the lower left, but still we are not bad, right? And this is something all of you know. What I'm going to do in next couple of slides is to tell you, as pharmacology students, what are the opportunities out there? See, people might talk about gaps. I never wanted to talk about problems. I always wanted to look at them as challenges, right? In today, if you look at any numbers on drug development, what is the cost of developing a drug in the US? It, depending upon what you read, it is cost you anywhere between 1 billion to 2.5 billion. That's a huge number. That means huge investments are required. And if you look at how many things will become, in the end, it's not even, the numbers are very, very small. So how do you mitigate such a challenge as for people who are interested in pharma? How do you go ahead and do it is the argument. If you look at where I'm showing these things more for you to understand that even though India is not inventing new molecules, but we can be part of invention. If you break down the process of drug discovery into various facets, and you may get into one particular facet where you can contribute, may not be the full platform or the full workflow. So, if you look at these graphs, this is where the money gets spent at various phases in a drug development. Why do things fail? Because things fail because of complexity. As I said, not even 5% of the molecule reach the phase 3 trials. There are several reasons why things fail. I gave you some of the reasons. And I think that Sunil was mentioning about the long times, like if in the previous chart you must have seen the timelines. I think it's in some other slide, but usually it takes 10 to 15 years to develop a drug. That means from the invention to phase 3 trials and go to the market. So it's a long haul. Who is going to commit so much of money to get the job done? So somebody who is not risk averse. In the West, probably there is more intention for risk appetite. They don't mind taking risk. But other countries, the risk appetite is not so high. But the risk appetite pays. You might look at it as a gamble, but gamble in the right direction for the benefit of people, right? So, if you look at all these things, the issues about intellectual property, high entry barriers, some of the things were talked about, and longer time to market complexity. As pharma preludes, if you wish to be, you may not be looking at the entire picture. You may want to look at a portion of it or a segment of it where you can contribute. So today, deep technologies in drug discovery, like today everything is, as you know, is interdisciplinary. If you are a pharmacology person, you're also simultaneously some materials person, or you could be a computers person who understands the computers to design drugs and all that. So it's a multidisciplinary thing. So some of the things that Sunil talking about, some of them are not deep tech. Like for example, putting it in a bottle of small volume, it's not deep tech. But it is patient friendly, it creates market for you. That's one way of looking at it. But what we are talking about is deep tech, where new science contributes to develop products that are much higher value. Like if you, as I said, if you understand a disease or some other drug, some other chemical entity that has value in particular disease, and you go in that direction, that is deep tech. Simply by changing injection volumes or, these kind of things are a bit more superficial kind of a thing, but they have value. I'm not saying they don't have value. But what I'm trying to say is, deep tech means, because we are all science researchers and we educated at master's and PhD level, it's important for us to look at these problems from the deep tech point of view. And how do you do that? Deep tech is usually interdisciplinary. You try to mix different areas. You pick up something. Like yesterday I was talking to somebody, a gynecologist who is a very senior lady in Hyderabad. She tells me, if you use virtual reality during birth of a child, the pain perception is 1/3. They don't even get anesthesia. If you are able to use virtual reality, the perception of pain is reduced so much, it's completely different way of looking at pain management. I was quite surprised to hear, but apparently it looks like a very regular practice in the West. Right? So, there are so many opportunities if you want to explore. And a lot of times, one of the things that people blame, especially for lack of discoveries in India for new NCE, there is not much collaboration between industry and academia. Industry has a certain expectations, academy has its own metrics. Where do they meet is always question. So each person don't have trust in the other. The timelines are important for a scientist. Timelines are not top priority. They always do blue sky research. Even if it doesn't have consequences, he doesn't care. But industry is spending somebody's money. You have to meet the timelines. So here if you look at it, this is one study done by Novartis with all its collaborators. Because there is a general perception that people don't trust each other. An academician, a researcher doesn't trust the company. But if you look at their conclusions, these are the take-home messages, are evaluate and manage the collaboration portfolio. Basically, there should be a lot of communication. People always, if I talk to any of my colleagues in the industry or the academia, because I'm doing on both sides, I also want to tell you that I started my company when I'm 65, if that sends you a message to you. Okay, so the point I'm trying to say is, the people think there is a trust deficit. There is no trust deficit. People bring in things like what is the confidentiality, what is the patent ownership. These are the things that first talked about even before talking the details. Actually, when people survey it, if you have a good communication, these are not the problems. The first thing you hear when you go to an academician, they say, how much money I'm going to get, what is my ownership. These are the things. That comes later. So when they did this survey, they realized that is not a problem. High quality communication and coordination, and things will change. You should be able to accommodate those changes and foster commitment and enthusiasm. Basically, these are something that belief should be there while you're doing it. So I'll skip through these things mainly because there are so many opportunities if you are interested in artificial intelligence in various aspects of drug development. Okay, I mean, it's very important to look at these things. And big advantages are, if you look at the kind of times you can bring down by applying artificial intelligence in drug development, you almost look like something that takes 10 to 15 years, you can do it in 7 to 9 years. And again, I'm repeating a point, you don't have to be part of the whole process. You can pick up things either in target identification or hit identification or asset development or even clinical trial planning or processing the data. There are so many opportunities you can get into depending upon your interest and passion. So again, some examples, even literature survey for a particular drug before you shortlist the drugs, it becomes important. And pharmacological screening, clinical trials, all these are all different aspects. So what people talk today about is a functional outsourcing rather than whole process outsourcing. That means you are outsourcing a particular thing. You are a CDMO, you are a contract manufacturing or advisor or whatever. You are not taking the whole process, but you are taking a portion of it and trying to reach. I'm not saying it is not being done, but I'm saying there is an opportunity. It is being done by majors, but even a pharma person can do that. Look at it as an opportunity to get there, right? So this is just a busy slide where there's a lot of investment by different companies, big money. If you look at the numbers, they're all very big, like 400 million, 100 million, 123 million. These are all companies that invest in different companies to apply AI in these technologies, right? So these are some of the things that probably you will understand as you get along. But what I want to leave it with you is the key trends that are happening today. You should be looking at them. In my opinion, imagination is the only weapon to in a war with the reality, because you have to be imaginative. That's where the pharmapreneur name comes also. All of you understand it is an entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is nothing but a business. But how do you use your knowledge to create value for yourself and for the society? That's the game plan. So these are all bites. When you keep reading it, a lot of people say good things. Crucial for the startups to adopt a strategic approach to customer segmentation, product development, and monetization. That's all I'm saying. Actually, you have to identify a particular sector and get into it, and also there is a need for customer education, as the customers may not be fully aware of the capabilities. High risk, research intensive nature of deep tech endeavors can lead to valuation volatility. When something is very risky, people do not know how to value it. So there is a volatility in it. These are all some of the things which I thought Dr. Sunil has talked about. And I'm coming to the last couple of slides. When they're starting is by giving venture capitalists. See, today, if you look at how much money out there by venture capitalists or angel investors for a pharmapreneur. Obviously, pharmapreneur, as I said, is a business, and none of you are rich enough to start your own business at a crore level. You have to attract money. Is there enough money out there to attract? One part Dr. Sunil mentioned about there are a lot of government schemes. Today, I can guarantee this. If your idea is smart, it is not at all difficult to raise 20 to 30 lakhs as a grant. It's just not a problem. And I'm sure all of you coming from different places where you have visited incubators, seen a lot of funding programs, it's not at all a problem. But the problem comes when you want to scale up to 10 crores, 20 crores, 30 crores. But you can get there with 20 lakhs money. Your 20 lakhs, even if you fail, it's a small failure. It's not a big, it's not going to shake the world. But that's very important. That's why I believe pharmapreneurs is a very good alternative to bridge the gap between the creators and consumers kind of a dilemma. So because you can take this money, the Indian context is extremely friendly today for entrepreneurship, and there is a huge opportunity. Health is perpetual market. Health is never going to go away. It's always going to be in demand. So as a pharmacologist, you have a great opportunity to plug yourself into that and then manage. So this is where I come from. This is my incubation center. And I just want to leave one, I also work on non-animal models. That means, can you avoid killing animals and come up with organoids, organs on chip kind of a thing. That we do. I just wanted to use it as a thing. If somebody of you interested, they can look at our site. So closing, my way of looking at it is probably Indian corporates should come together and create a fund of funds, maybe some 100 crores, 200 crores, in a focused way to the pharmapreneurs like that, like you, who can come forward with an idea and support them, right? And the collaborations between academia and industry should be not simply giving money. They should be there from the beginning. It's a collaboration rather than a grant. Only then, sometimes the capabilities of the academia is not known to the corporates. So, functional service outsourcing is what I'm saying, which is a specific way of, for a specific particular aspect, you can be part of it. And these are all the various, it's a smaller operation, low risk and high gain. We have competencies. Failures are not going to change the world. It's a small failures if it is a bad idea. Human resources, like small failures means he talked about a dental, he talked about a mouthwash for a dentist during COVID, which is a bad idea, right? That's why it failed. So even if you fail, it's not a big failure. But if it is successful, it's a big success. So we have great human resources. It's a great opportunity. So it's not about ideas, it's about making ideas happen. So it's a very interesting and challenging opportunity to each one of you, if you want to look at it as another career. As I said, I started my first company when I'm 65. So it's never late. Thank you very much.